Hello everybody and welcome to another Beyond All Reason video. We are back on Comic Catcher with two people we haven't seen much of. They are in the top 30 of the leaderboard. We have Wodzejro, who is currently ranked 21 on the leaderboard, versus Bento, who is currently 25 on the leaderboard. So, battle of the 20s here. Let's see who comes out on top for their climb towards number one. We see Wodzejro here as on the left-hand side of the map in red. And we see on the right-hand side Bento here with Cortex in blue. Which is kind of funny that they're opposite colours of what their faction is, but it is what it is. Now, we do see some differences in the start position. Well, the start position is actually the same, but build orders are different here. We see Bento going for a double mech into a vehicle plant, which is interesting because that is not too much in the way of metal here to be building straight into vehicles. Whereas we see Wodzejro here going for more of what we've seen people like Andy do, and that's go for the double mechs, LLT and solar, and then walk to the third metal point before getting the vehicle factory up. Now, on this map, with it being mostly flat, there's not really much of a reason to go box. You need the speed and reaction speed of vehicles, as well as the, well, tankiness of the tanks. And what we do tend to see is people like, I can't remember who it was now. I want to say LSR or Ragnar, I think. Were basically kept their commander in the base the whole time and just built walls of solar. Just built a wall of solar around this metal point. Then, you know, pretty much nothing's going to be able to hit the metal points at all. Because they have to shoot through the solar first. And we are seeing here that Bento has left the base. It's moved to his north side of metal extractors. And Wodzejro is now doing the same. So Wodzejro, his build choice a little bit behind, but does mean his metal points are a bit less defended here, meaning Bento's having to use his APM to defend his metal points. Wodzejro just using his comm to mop up the scouts coming through there. And then we see the initial scouts here being used defensive for Wodzejro. And not really much dance of the fleas here, as both players just kind of trying to harass with scouts. Now just choosing to position scouts in expansion locations to give heads up when the enemy player is moving into that position. Now we do see him trying to get around and get this flank on this rear metal extractors. Little does he know there's an LLT there that's going to mop that up if he does try it. And Bento's will notice the scouts moving in and falls back as quick as he can. Now both players actually equal in terms of expansion right now. The difference is here is that Wodzejro is using an engineer for expansion as well as his commander, whereas Bento only just starting to use an engineer for expansion. Now, as I've said this before, normally we see contention in this section here, and both players will basically set up here. Now, when we saw the Dolphy game fairly recently, we saw players go for completely different start positions. We saw Dolphy and Ragnar, I believe, spawn in these two corners, and meant that the fight was a lot more vertical than we were expecting. We saw Dolphy mainly move here like this into Ragnar's base. But Ragnar did just push through and end up completely destroying Dolphy. A little bit of spoilers there if you haven't already watched that one, my bad. But that was several weeks ago by now, so I'm hoping you would have seen that by now. Meanwhile, more scouts just moving around, trying to find some holes. Which that scout doesn't really do anything. He gets blown up fairly quickly. And Wodzejro just slowly moving forward, Both players about the same distance from each other right now. Now, I would argue that Bento is actually doing better with his expansion now. He's got an additional engineer moving out. Construction vehicle here being added to support one of Wodzejro's expansions rather than going a separate direction, which could be key. Now, all of this is kind of defended here, so he doesn't really need to worry about this individual scout. He's going to try and move it into here, but that LLT is just going to kill that scout very quickly. And yeah, not much really to say right now. Oh, he does actually slip into a gap there. Fortunately, Bento not really able to do anything with the gap that was made available to him, and does get cleaned up. Now, surprisingly, Wodzejro has not expanded anywhere north of his base, and there is a substantial chunk of units there. Oh, not units, sorry, metal extractors there that he could make use of. But the plan is to push as far forward towards your enemy, take as much land as possible towards your enemy, and then back cap in essence. You're not time gated on metal extractors close to your base, but you are somewhat time gated on ones right next to you. Now, all of those unfortunately get degunned by Bento while played there, and there's not much Wodzejro could have really done in that situation. And building the front line in the middle as we predicted. But that did mean that Wodzejro did just lose a substantial chunk of unit, and fortunately he's not going to have what it takes on this south side here with 2 scouts and a single blitz against 4 incisors. And these 2 engineers now may get killed. Blitzes come trying to save the day. LT gets built, but instantly blown up. And the incisors will actually not get the engineers and get taken out themselves. So, Wodzejro somewhat lucky there that he was able to react in time, as that could have been dangerous. And now actually using those forces, rather than pulling them back, just pushing them on forward. As we were saying in the last video, 1v1s is more about, you know, forcing your enemy to react to you rather than you reacting to your enemy. And we actually see a similar move being taken here by Bento on the north side, as 2 single incisors are making their way around the top. Wodzejro yet to notice. And he's not sent anything there yet, actually. This could be a potential issue for Wodzejro if he doesn't have anything there to react to that. Which at the moment he doesn't. Meanwhile, on this side down here, we see Bento mopping up these blitzes quite efficiently. Enough incisors there that will deal with those. And actually a self-D of an LLT there manages to take out a sizable chunk of Wodzejro's blitzes. Fortunately does not get that metal extractor before it gets killed. And a big chunk of incisors still left on the field here. As we zoom back out, get a bit more of an overview of what's going on. Our metal extractor is being built on the north side. Still, Wodzejro hasn't noticed. Wodzejro hasn't noticed those blues coming in on the top, about to hit his economy. Still isn't aware. You can see his red marker on the map here showing where he's paying attention. Now he's seen them. We just briefly saw him notice. Now he's rushing to quickly move units there. He's changed his... didn't change his factory rally point actually. He's just moved 2 units there. And this middle has become a bit of a dead zone. Bento, I would kind of argue, has the advantage right now. Definitely spec'd out more in his economy. If we quickly check statistics, Bento in the lead by 1.2k metal. Energy is fairly even, both accessing about the same amount. And this one incisor will get some damage done if he decides to attack with it, which he is actually not. That is now actually probably going to get mopped up fairly easy as well. Big push now coming around the north. Wodzejro, he does see those units. Those engineers are going to get probably cleaned up. Runs away from the LLT before it's finished. And we see the spawn of groups. This does mean that Wodzejro is going to have to start transitioning to some stouts of his own to be able to deal with the brute. You can hear the click battles of Wodzejro and Bento there as they were desperately trying to maneuver their forces. And we do see straight away a transition into stout from Wodzejro here, and a couple of Janices in the mix for good measure. Interestingly, Bento building a forward air factory. Not what I would expect to see on the front line, but maybe just needed to build one. The Shurikens will do a good job at just dealing with anything down there. Well, at least EMPing anything down there. Good flank attack here. Bento's units are getting substantial more damage here because of the flanking damage effect. That now will have worn off because of the fact that he's no longer flanking enemy units. And yes, I would say that Wodzejro played very well there, but the amount of brutes coming in here for reinforcements, 8 more brutes. Wodzejro has 2 stouts, 4 stouts. Wodzejro gonna have to probably degun here. This is enough brutes to take out a commander though if he's not careful. Is he gonna move them towards the commander? No, it looks like he may just move them around to attack. No, he is going in towards the commander. Trying to clear up that little bit of expansion. There's not enough stouts there to really deal with it. Wodzejro forced to be defensive right now, but because of that, he's actually set his factory waypoint towards the enemy's base here and just pumping stouts towards the enemy's base, trying to force Bento to redirect forces elsewhere rather than towards his commander. Great move here to dictate the pace of the game, forcing Bento to change his tactic. That was a good push. Gave Wodzejro some time to breathe. Wodzejro though left without many units on this north side as more brutes come in. Brutes able to take out LTs pretty easily. And unfortunately leaving a good chunk of 3.6k metal up now on the north side of the map. Janus is starting to come into play. Very good alpha damage on Janices. Still not enough stouts here to deal with the brute. But the brute's falling back regardless, wanting to hold and contain that reclaim field. It will be a big win for Bento if he can get that. Meanwhile on the south side here, Shurikens coming out from Bento, right next to that aircraft lab. And that engineer that was trying to build LLTs was completely not successful because of that armed battle extractor. Meanwhile, this could be the end for Wodzejro here. Substantial amount of brutes inbound, Shurikens as well. Wodzejro having to fall even further back. Very good play here from Bento. Completely dictating the pace of the game here. Shurikens completely locking down all of the stout. He needs to force the units more up into where he's already got air defenses. Trying to protect the air defense positions. The air defense positions actually just consistently EMP'd, so not really going to do much. Oh, actually, surprisingly, isn't able to shoot with 84%. And somehow Wodzejro manages to change that because Wodzejro pushing a force of tanks along the north side, forcing Bento to have to fall back with some tanks again. Now, when it comes to economy damage, Wodzejro doing a lot better here than Bento. But already 2k of that north reclaim field is completely gone. And that's going to prop up Bento's economy for losing all of these metal extractors. But still, these stouts are still going strong, trying to push through as much as they can. They are probably not going to last too much longer, but see, now what you may want to do is start splitting off some of these tanks to different locations. Oh, interesting. Bento has now taken the opportunity, pulled all of his tanks back. Now this would be a perfect chance for Wodzejro here to push forward with what he's got. Clear up some of this front line. All of these tanks are up here. They're away from their position right now. Meanwhile, on the south side, no change. Very slow down there on the south. Steamer's being built, which is interesting. And again, Bento using these forces along the north side here. Seems to be his area that he prefers to push to. 2.3k metal in the middle. Wodzejro can get hold of that. That's a good chunk to counter what he's lost on the north side. You see some rocket trucks actually being built as well. And on the map, which I can't look at right now, we do see both players going Tech 2. However, Bento looks like he doesn't quite have the energy for that. And unfortunately, some of these tanks are still going to get round on that north side. Quickly switching over to... We see Bento here, Tech 2 vehicles. And probably the same, yep, for ARM here. I think some advanced solars being built here to cover the cost of the engineers going to be building the expansions. Bear in mind that I think the energy cost of a Tech 2 metal extractor is 20 per second. So you need to bear that in mind when you're adjusting your economy. Because if you just upgrade your metal extractors and don't have the energy to cover it, then you're going to just put yourself into an energy deficit, and that's a bad day for you. Let's bull out, make its impact here. One brute does actually manage to get past though. We get a little bit of damage done, but not too much. Now what's surprising is Wodzejro knows for a fact that Bento's comm is on the south. Oh, this is dangerous. Wodzejro with a lack of forces yet again. And we see a good sized tank force here pushing right towards Wodzejro's base. And interestingly enough, rather than continuing, turning around and clearing up the middle. Now Bento definitely dictating the pace of this game here. Keeping control of the reclaim. Keeping Wodzejro boxed in. We actually see him queuing up some orders there. See, he's just trying to cut off his commander. Do as much run-by damage as he can. Wodzejro definitely on the back foot here. Both players did Tech 2 at the same time though, so Wodzejro can get some forces out and keep them alive, or all it takes is one good D-gun. Size the amount of metal though in this area. Consoles out. Fortunately, not really going to do much here, I would say. I think they're probably going to get killed pretty quickly. Wodzejro's just pushing back to his factory. Just going to put that commander build power into the factory here. Still, I don't know. Wodzejro's going to be able to come back from this. I mean, all it takes is a strike on the commander, which unfortunately is now in a hole, building Resbot, as the air factory's actually been reclaimed as well. For the amount of static defences here, these double LLTs do make good, quick work of the stouts, surprisingly. Pushing through the middle isn't going to really be an option anymore. And although these will get cleared up here, this is meaning that Wodzejro is only left with about a quarter of the map, and the big push though comes from the middle. Combined Tech 1 and Tech 2 push. Very little tanks left here at all. And I believe this is the end for Wodzejro. This just shows what controlling a reclaim field can do. 3k metal is the equivalent of, let's say, well, only 3 balls though. 4 balls. But it matters. And unfortunately, the constant harass from Bento on the flank, Wodzejro not able to secure that north side whatsoever, and nothing's gone down this bottom side since that commander was there. And I think this is just going to be the end for Wodzejro here. I don't see him coming back from this unless he's able to make some sort of big play and manage to take out a substantial amount of damage on the factory. Consoles are trying to get some reclaim, but not enough. As you can see, all that big reclaim field in the middle is already gone. And at this point, Bento could quite easily just push to the base, I think. Now, as you're probably quite aware, it's very difficult to know when you're winning in this situation. You're hoping for the best, but you always think your opponent's got something up their sleeve. But you don't want to just, make the all-in play and go for the win. And hesitating about it is, what makes you lose. And rather than defending this bottom side here, from Wodzejro, we see Bento just trying to clear up more of this south side, the more fortified section here. You can just starve Wodzejro out, clear up all the mexes on the south side. He just keeps doing that, then there's not much Wodzejro's going to be able to do. He's already on the back foot. If we quickly check the statistics here, metal. Oh wow, okay. Bento wasted 2k metal. That's a lot of metal to waste. But when you're almost 20k, yeah, it's like 15k ahead, 20k ahead on metal. Does 1k metal really matter? Probably not. And we can see here, map-wise, the mechs control that Wodzejro has is literally just this, and Wodzejro has, that, and the middle area is no man's land. And yes, it's just gonna at the end, and Wodzejro bows out. Well played, Bento. Both players, trying to dictate the flow of the game here with their use of raids. And Bento just managed to get control of the reclaim field, and that just turned the tide in his favour. Well played to both players. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.